All right, welcome to The Explainer. We've got to talk about this startling new financial analysis report that just dropped today, February 4th, 2026. It's outlining what it calls a great reversal. Basically, a perfect storm brewing from three massive crises hitting the global markets all at the same time. Okay, let's get right into it.
So right off the bat, the report just throws two shocking numbers at us that hit the wires today. The first is this, a staggering $6.6 billion paper loss, and that's from a single company's bet on Ethereum. That is a massive red flag waving over the entire crypto space.
The second number, it's just one. But that one represents the U.S. Federal Reserve Chair, the person in charge of the world's most powerful central bank who is now facing a criminal investigation. We're talking about a crisis of a kind we've never really seen before, right at the very heart of the global financial system.
All right, so let's dig into that first shockwave shaking up the markets. A really severe leadership crisis at the U.S. Federal Reserve that's creating a very dangerous power vacuum. So here's the deal. As the report details, the current Fed chair, Jerome Powell, is under an active criminal investigation by the DOJ. And yeah, the official subject is building renovations, but let's be real, the implication here is enormous. This just casts a huge cloud of uncertainty over every single future monetary policy decision. It basically paralyzes the institution that controls the world's most important currency.
And this table, man, it just lays out the political gridlock perfectly. On one side, you have Powell, the guy in charge, under this cloud of investigation. In the middle, the president's nominee, Kevin Warsh, is just stuck. He can't get confirmed. And the backup plan? The vice chair, Philip Jefferson. I mean, it's a complete mess, a total recipe for paralysis, and, you guessed it, extreme volatility in the markets.
And what's locking this all in place? You've got key figures in the Senate basically drawing a line in the sand. They're refusing to even think about confirming a new chair until this investigation is over, all in the name of the Fed's independence. But the result is that while they wait, the world's most important central bank is effectively flying blind.
Okay, so let's move on to the second shock wave, because this is where things really start to build on each other. We're shifting from that institutional crisis over to a speculative collapse in the digital asset market, and it's all centered on one company's gigantic gamble.
So, the company at the heart of this storm is Bitmine Immersion Technologies. And these guys, they didn't just dip their toes in the water. They went all in on this really radical idea. Forget cash, let's use Ethereum for our corporate treasury. They bought up over 4.2 million ETH, which made them the biggest corporate holder on the planet. And today, that bet has turned into a $6.6 billion unrealized loss. And get this, the company's chairman, Tom Lee, he's actually defending this. He's out there saying, and I quote, "It's a feature, not a bug." His argument is that all this crazy volatility is just part of the ride to long-term gains that will beat traditional assets. It's a really bold thing to say when your company is down billions and the market is definitely not buying it right now.
Yeah, and this chart right here is exactly why the market's freaking out. Just look at the scale of this value destruction. I mean, their ETH holdings were worth almost $14 billion just back in October. Today, it is absolutely cratered by more than $4 billion. For many investors, that's not a feature, that's a 5-alarm fire.
Now, for the third shockwave, and honestly, this one might be the biggest of them all. We're talking about a tech disruption so big, it's making people question the entire software industry. The AI boom has hit a boiling point, and everyone is asking the same scary question. Are we looking at a dot-com bubble 2.0?
The report zeroes in on two developments that have just completely shaken things up. First, you've got Google's Genie 3 model. I mean, this thing can literally create whole interactive 3D worlds just from you typing a sentence. And then, as if that's not enough, the CEO of Anthropic comes out and predicts that AI is going to replace all software developers. Not in 5 years, not in 10, within a year. You can see why this isn't just about innovation anymore, it's an existential threat that has the markets terrified.
And this is where the report draws a really stark parallel. Back in 1999, right, the internet came for offline retail. Today, in 2026, AI is coming for knowledge work itself, for our brains. The predicted outcome here isn't just some companies going bust, it's the potential collapse of the entire software as a service model, leaving only the guys who make the actual hardware, the chips, the power, still standing. Okay, so let's recap. We have a political crisis at the Fed, a massive speculative bust in crypto, and a world-changing technological crisis with AI. They seem like three totally separate stories, right? Well, the report says no. It argues they're all connected by a pattern that's been playing out for a century. This is where it gets really interesting.
And the whole theory hinges on this idea called cycle synchrony. Think about it like this. You've got all these different waves in the market, right? Each one has its own rhythm, its own cycle over multiple years. Most of the time, they're out of sync. But cycle synchrony is that super rare moment when all those different waves peak at the exact same time, creating this one giant, powerful wave. And the report's argument is that's exactly where we are right now.
So, what cycles are we talking about? The report says two big ones are lining up. First, there's a well-documented 3.39-year stock market cycle that a guy named Edward R. Dewey found decades ago. And guess what? We are right at the peak. At the same time, you have the social mood, which is just turning sour. I mean, think about it. The public anger over crypto losses, the total distrust in the Fed because of this investigation. It's a perfect storm of negativity. This, according to the analysis, is the perfect setup for a massive reversal.
Okay, so we have a perfect storm. What happens next? The report lays out a pretty detailed scenario for how the rest of 2026 could play out.
The forecast basically sees this happening in 3 stages. First, that leadership vacuum at the Fed, it's going to cause absolute chaos in the bond market. Second, you're going to see a major shakeout in crypto. Companies like Bitmine that bet the farm are going to face a real crisis. And third, we'll see this huge split in the tech world. The old-school software companies are going to get hammered, while the companies that actually power AI, we're talking energy and computer chips, are going to dominate.
So for the US, Europe, and the UK, the outlook is not great. The analysis points to a sharp drop in US stocks as that AI hype turns into fear. At the same time, bonds are going to be all over the place because nobody knows what the Fed is doing. And you can expect Europe and the UK to get dragged right down with them, especially with their own economic problems. The only place to hide? Maybe commodities, as investors flee from everything else. And over in Asia, it could be just as bad. You've got economies like South Korea, which are super reliant on tech exports. They're seen as extremely vulnerable. China and Hong Kong will likely see a downturn too, though maybe not as bad, because their economies run on slightly different cycles. But here's the real kicker. A crisis at the Fed could seriously weaken the US dollar. And if that happens, you're looking at major chaos in the currency markets. Euro, yen, Korean won, you name it.
So in the end, the report's conclusion is that this isn't just some market correction. They're calling it the Great Reversal. A moment where the old rules are getting thrown out the window, rewritten by AI, political turmoil, and these huge old market cycles all coming together at once. And that leaves us with one pretty sobering question. Is your portfolio ready for a storm like this?